Captain, what are you talking about? It appears to be a blackout. Everything is all black.
We ready for y'all. We ready. We ready. We ready.
Yo, listen, I'm up here. Just joking around, playing around for a little bit. But I got a question for y'all. If y'all can hear me, like anybody that's listening, real quick. Um, I was hard. I was hard on this man early on in the season. You know, I went at him, especially right before bye week. Saying that he need to get his mind together. And ain't nobody gonna convince me that he ain't hear my voice or somehow saw that clip or something of me saying what I said about him. Because after that game, it seemed like that team, that the play, the style of play, and everything he did went to the next level. You know what I mean? And ultimately won us a Super Bowl. So I'm in the beginning, I was critical of him at the beginning of this year. I even still kind of feel some type of way about the collapse of last year. You know what I mean? Because obviously that has something to do with him too. But I just kind of question now: is Jalen Hurts one of the most hated QBs after winning a Super Bowl championship? Is he the most hated? If y'all can hear me, pop in and just answer that question real quick, and then you can pop back out. Because I know some people watch from the FYP page. They don't want to see their name pop up. They don't want me to see their name or anything like that. Hey, don't worry, I can't see your name when you pop in and pop out. But if you can answer that question, I greatly appreciate it. Anybody on here can answer that question, I would greatly appreciate it. You know what I mean? Is Jalen Hurts? Let me see if I can type it in so people can see. Let's type it in. Let's do that. Somebody like this. So I know somebody watching. Is Jalen Hurts the most hated? I type slow, y'all. I type slow. There it is. I just put it up. Is Jalen Hurts the most hated Super Bowl winning QB ever? That's what I want to know because, and if Jazzo, you ever see this, I didn't reply to your message yet, but I did see it. And I did see what Chase Daniels has said. A career backup quarterback, like career. Never, I mean, he can't even, in all honesty, he can't sniff the talent that Jalen Hurts has. I mean, like he doesn't come near it. And for a guy like that to have an opinion like that on somebody who won a Super Bowl, it's mind-boggling. Like it's crazy to me. How do you sit there and say that? What do you say? He's an average, or he's not a superstar quarterback? Like at what point of your career were you ever considered that? At what point of your career were you ever in the talks of that? What point in your career were you ever like considered a number one option, like a starting QB? You always fought for you actually I don't even really think you fought. You were the glorified backup. The glorified backup to every team you were on. Like so what gives you the right not the right, but how do you come up with trying to or trying to convince an audience that Jalen Hurts is just like a okay quarterback when you never started? You never your career was never a starter. Like it was you never started a game like literally you never came into a league year fighting for the number one spot. You always fought for the 2 or the 3 spot. Like no team that ever picked you up said, "Yeah, we'll bring you in for competition at the quarterback position." No, they always brung it in and brung what you call it? You ain't see that Chase Daniel said about Jalen Hurts. You know, he was just an average quarterback, or just you know, what I mean, he wasn't an elite quarterback. I'm just saying, I know Darius Slay said it too, but it's like to me, like Darius Slay has a more body of a work to be able to make comments like that over Chase Daniel, who's never at any point in his career has ever been considered a starter or like was in position to be a starter. Like at what point were you what yeah, I mean that's why I posed the question. You always hate on him, but it's not even relevant. It's not a fun hate. You can't debate that. I watched Pat Bev and I think it was Brandon Jennings go back and forth, and they was talking about how Pat Bev averaged 37 in high school in college, and then got to the pros and couldn't average 10. He said that's not his role. But like he said, I've been a number one option on most of my teams that I've been on. Where have you been that you could be considered a number one option, or not a number one option, but he was the starter on most of the teams he played on. Brandon Jennings got hurt and it was done. Like how do you talk about people who have accomplished more than you? That's just my question though. How do you criticize somebody who's accomplished more than you in his career? And mind you, you played longer than him. You like mind you, Chase Daniel was in the league way because he was at one point our backup QB when Doug Peterson came. He was our backup QB. Matter of fact, I think they drafted Jalen Hurts and got rid of him. And he came from Doug EP's system over there in Kansas City. So you mean to tell me you haven't put that much of a body of work together in the years that you played in the league that a rookie quarterback came in and just took your spot, and you was the head coach's pick because you got a crazy contract to come sign with the Eagles. You damn near got starter money to sign with the Eagles, but to play backup because Carson Wentz was starting. And not only that, they went out. I think they even got Nicky Foles. I think after him or before him. So like even with no matter of fact, yeah, Nicky Foles. They went out and got Nicky Foles, and he started when Carson Wentz got hurt. They put Nicky Foles in. Chase Daniel had no. I think he was on that team when they won the Super Bowl, but he had no chance of even sniffing the field. So how do you sit there and say that Jalen Hurts is not an elite or not a superstar type quarterback? How do you do that? I need somebody to make sense of it for me because to me, um, I do not know how you can make those comments and it be okay. Like I don't know how Shady and all of them. I don't know if Shady was up there, but I don't know how none of them guys roasted him. Because me, if I was a part of that segment or a part of that show, I'd have said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What gives you the right to tell or to say that about a guy who's a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a Super Bowl MVP quarterback? How what gives you that right? What makes your mind be able to come up with that stuff and say it out there in the airwaves? Like he should be done as an analyst, and his career is short. He thinks in his mind he's as good if not better, but he blaming bad situations fit. But Jalen figured it out with multiple coordinators. He do enough to win where he couldn't never do that. Why he couldn't never submit himself as a consistent starter. Exactly, and that's my point. You hadn't figured it out. And how many years you been in the league? Like you didn't figure it out at all. And for you to say what you said on national TV, I had saw it, but I just didn't get on. I just didn't get on to say nothing about it. I'm like, first I didn't recognize who he was. First I'm like, who's this? Because so many people had something to say after Jalen Hurts after they won that Super Bowl. And then when I read it, and I'm like, damn, that's Chase Daniels. I'm like, really, is he really worth, bringing up and having a whole discussion about whether he should have that thought process or not? Is it really worth it? Because again, what accomplishment has he had in his career? Like what record has he broke? What's Chase Daniels' career passing yards in a season? Maybe 1,000, and that was due to the quarterback of that team getting hurt, whatever starter he was behind. Like it mind boggles me about that, like how people can make those type of comments and still have a job. Like you'd have had to go to commercial break and be like, yo, listen, like come on, man. Like you killing you're talking crazy about a Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback. Like you haven't been on those battlegrounds. You haven't been in those positions. You haven't done nowhere near what he's done, and you're talking about him. Like I said, I know Slay, hinting around that and said, but Slay's played multiple years as starters and has been considered at least a handful of times the best in his position. So he has a little wiggle room to say that. You give a guy like that made those type of accomplishments and has been looked at by his peers as one of the best in his position, you give that guy a little bit of leeway. But Chase Daniels is like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. I just had to figure out if anybody, like how people was feeling about that. To me, it's just it's the craziest thing I ever heard. It's really the craziest thing I ever heard from a person who has nowhere near accomplished. And Jalen Hurts last season, when they had the epic collapse, he still accomplished more than Chase Daniel did his entire career. Like even with his mind in the tank and in the season going down the drain, still accomplished more than Chase Daniels had ever in his career. You know what? It'd be like me, who never played football, sitting back saying that I can out throw Chase Daniels. I wouldn't even get the time of day. People would be like, yo, like we not even going. What's the point? We're not even airing that. This guy played on high school, college, and now the pro level. He made it to the pros. So like how do you compare to that when you never played on not one of the three? How does your voice carry? And that's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to accomplishments and what people do in their careers and how they get to where they at, a person that has not ever played on that platform or has not ever been considered the best at his position, his credibility is shot when he's trying to convince viewers that this man who's done it ain't nothing, or he ain't what we think he is. Now here's my kicker to especially to everybody who really, because there's still a lot of doubters and haters out there on Jalen Hurts. We all been paying attention to this off season with Howie and the draft picks and the signings. And I think he's made a bunch of solid signings, like Dory Jackson, a bunch of guys. He's made some Ojolari. He's made some solid signings, especially on the defensive side of things. I still hear rumblings about Kyle Pitts, and I don't know if that's true or not. Now I'm starting to hear rumblings about T.J. Watt. I'm hearing rumblings about T.J. Watt. Here's my point right now. T.J. Watt has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. But you trade somehow, and it probably won't work money-wise and all that. I know, Jay, if you're still in here, I know you're going to correct me on that. But if somehow you get a T.J. Watt on this team, you already got one of the best offenses in the league, the offensive line, and you already seen that Jalen Hurts knows how to win and improvise when in tough situations, and he comes out with wins. If this team is set up to where as though we become unstoppable, or we like, and now let's just say this: if the offensive coordinator mixes the pass with the run this year, if it's a 50-50 balance and Jalen Hurts is looking like the Jalen Hurts we saw when he went to the Super Bowl that first year when they got AJ and all that, how can you say that this man is not a good quarterback or an elite quarterback? If he's winning and his team is performing, how could you not keep him in? How could you just, I don't know. How can you say that he wouldn't be an elite quarterback is what I want to know. And we all know, everybody that's watching this live and that watches football, we all know football is the ultimate team sport. You got to have all 22 players on the same page, ready to win and play football. But my point of it all is that if Jalen Hurts comes out and does what Jalen Hurts is supposed to do as a QB, takes this team back to the Super Bowl, and we win another Super Bowl, how can you, as a fan, non-fan, or anybody, or whatever you want to consider yourself to be, hate on that man's performance? I just want to know, how can you hate on that man's performance? Like, it is like I just want to know, because at the end of the day, like I said, I roasted him the beginning of the year because I just couldn't stand the mindset that he was in. When you sit there and tell a reporter, especially when asked about your head coach and your relationship and what y'all going to do in the bye week to establish identity, and your response is, we have our moments. That's, to me, the dumbest answer, the most selfish answer you could have ever gave in that situation, because at that point you were showing that it was not about the team, it was about you. You know what I mean? It was about you. It was not about the team. And I roasted him for that, because everybody else that's playing the game or out there on the field, they're playing for their team. They're sacrificing for their team. And you, as the leader, if you're not willing to do that, then you're the problem. So I roasted him on that. And to me, after that, he got better. He got better. He played the game. You know what I mean? He played the game a lot better after that bye week. After that bye week, to me, I feel, and it was, offensive line, the offensive line guys going into the office telling Nick. I'm about to say Nick Nurse. Nick Sirianni. Our identity should be running the ball. Saquon is a madman. Let's run the ball. And to me too, in that thought process, for me, it was them telling Nick Sirianni, let's take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts. Let's take the pressure off of him. Let him relax and let the game slow down for him so that he can be what we need him to be. But we got to take the pressure off of him. So that is like that is something that I criticized him for, and you know, had a bit of a gripe with him for. But after that, in my eyes, he's gotten better. He's gotten better, way better. And like I said, he's won a Super Bowl. So if we go on and repeat next year, here's my thought process, and I've been saying this too. All right, so the first year, the first Super Bowl when we went against Kansas City, if it wasn't for that phantom holding call by James Bradbury, we win that Super Bowl. We win that Super Bowl, right? Following year, if Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts didn't get in a little spouting match or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? I think we had a chance to win that year too. So for us, that would have been back to back. And then last year, or this year that just passed. And the way we're getting set up, like it should be, you know, it could be another. It would have been another year. Next year, if we continue to build, if Howie continue to build this team the way he's been building it, we should be back to back to back to back. One of the most unstoppable teams ever. A career backup can't compare to a starter from a rookie year. Two times make it to a Super Bowl and win once with MOP level play. I think you said MVP level playing both over so many. Everyone thinks better than him, but he still accomplishes. That's what I'm saying, you know. And so here's my point, right? I've always asked, like, why is Joe Burrow so much better than him? Like, why is a guy like Joe Burrow so much better than Jalen Hurts? When they talk about top 5 quarterbacks, it's always, you know, Pat Mahomes, deservingly so, even though we made him look bad. But Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and who is somebody else? Who else do they say? It might be even Jalen Hurts is 5th. But how is Jalen Hurts 5th over? Like, see, if you're talking about stats, yes, Lamar puts up crazy numbers. Josh Allen puts up crazy numbers. But I compared Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts' stats. They're not far away from each other. Joe Burrow might have like 500 more yards than him in passing. It's not that much of a difference. But Joe Burrow hasn't accomplished what Jalen Hurts has accomplished. He went to the Super Bowl I think his second or third year, and lost to the Rams. But Jalen Hurts has been to the Super Bowl twice in 3 years, with a win in the second one. So tell me how. And like I said, if it wasn't about numbers, and if it was about like your overall team, like I always say, the MVP should be decided. The MVP should be about your team. If it wasn't about just individual numbers, what makes even Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen better than Jalen Hurts? If it wasn't about numbers, so don't crucify me when I say that. If you take individual stats out of it, and let's just talk about team accomplishments, what makes those guys better than Jalen Hurts? Take every number out of it. Let's just talk about the team and what the team has accomplished for that year. What makes those guys better than Jalen Hurts? And I bet you nobody could say definitively that this is why they're better. Because he's accomplished more in the time that he's been in the league than all them quarterbacks, with the exception of Patty Mahomes. That's the only quarterback that has been more successful as far as wins and losses than Jalen Hurts. So tell me what makes Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, whoever else better than Jalen Hurts when he's done more than them. Take out the numbers for those that's just coming in the room. I'm asking y'all to take away numbers and just solely look at the team play. Solely look at the team play, the team accomplishments, and what the team has done with their quarterbacks as starters, and tell me the difference. I bet you nobody could say definitively, like, this is why he's still better. Like, this is why, because here's the thing. In the regular season, because people like to say, like, y'all didn't, like, especially before the Super Bowl, y'all didn't beat Pat Mahomes when it counted. Yeah, we beat him in the regular season last year. It was the first game after our bye. I think it was Kansas City, the first game after our bye. We beat them. We beat Buffalo, and then we went on our epic slide. He outplayed Patty Mahomes in that first Super Bowl. Outplayed him. It's just our defense kind of let us down a little bit. Outplayed him. And then totally outplayed him in his second Super Bowl, which, like I said, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Well, Joe Burrow did beat him to get to the Super Bowl. But they have no, like what I'm saying is that when you look at the total accomplishments of each team, the Eagles and Jalen Hurts have accomplished more than the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Cincinnati Bengals, and whoever else you want to put up there and say that this quarterback is better. That's what I'm saying. Like, a guy like Chase Daniels, like, you've never been considered an elite talent quarterback that can take a team anywhere. You were always the backup guy who played that backup role. And you didn't always do it well because teams bounced you around. And like I said earlier, we paid you. We paid you a nice chunk of change to be a backup when Doug Peterson first came over here as the head coach, because you came from the system that he was just in with Andy Reid and him. So we padded your pockets pretty well. So, but you never, like, even in that situation, Jalen Hurts still was drafted by the Eagles. Nick Foles was still recruited and signed by the Eagles. So if you were that good, you wouldn't bounce around from team to team to team, and now you're not in the league, and you're sitting on what's that show? Speak Up, talking about Jalen Hurts. Like, it's probably the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. I don't know if I can play it. I don't know if I can play the audio, because I don't know if I'll get banned on doing that. But it to me is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, this guy name is up in the top 5 QBs that are playing football right now. Top 5 QBs is Jalen Hurts' name is mentioned with right now. Like, not last year or the year before. Right now, he's mentioned with the top 5 QBs that's playing the game now. Your name hasn't been mentioned in the top 5 of anything in your career. Never. And I hope this goes somehow viral, and maybe he wants to challenge me on that. But I mean, anybody can say, I mean, we all of us. I mean, you don't even have to watch football to know that you've never really heard that man's name mentioned at any time, even glancing over a football highlight. You've never seen a Chase Daniel um, on Sports Center's top 5 plays of the week or top 10 plays of the week. You may have seen him in the blooper wheel of Sports Center top bonehead plays of the week, but never like a top 5 or top 10 player of the week plays of the week. You've seen Jalen Hurts in there. You've seen Jalen Hurts in there. You've seen him particularly in that Super Bowl win. They were praising that man. That man played an all-around game in that Super Bowl. No turnovers. No, matter of fact, I'm sorry. 1 turnover. He had an interception. 1 turnover. Sorry. But the man played a heck of a game. And it still throws like chills up my spine when I see the highlights. And, it was that right after that, I think that Zach Ballin turnover. Was it Zach Ballin turnover? It was. I think they had just got the ball back. And I remember the announcer saying, yeah, they're probably just going to run the ball, kind of run some clock off. And, you know what I mean? And so if you know what I'm talking about, they've, well, not during the game, but the highlights show that Kellen Moore was like, yo, we could put the dagger in him right now. And Nick Sirianni was like, just do it. Just do it. Go ahead, do it. And that very next play was the drop back and the Devontae touchdown. When he threw the bomb, Devontae dropped the ball right in the basket for the dagger. That's when we went up 34-0. 34-0. I mean, this is this is for all the marbles. This is for everything. Jalen Hurts is playing the game of his life. We've never heard Chase Daniel name mentioned in a big time football game. Never. None of us has never heard of it. Never. He barely can keep a backup role. And that's what I'm saying. For that, I don't understand how you can talk about a man that's been a starter pretty much. Well, he backed up Carson for a little while, but how can you talk about somebody that was a starter and won a Super Bowl? Just riddle me that, Batman. Riddle me that. You know what I mean? But listen, I've talked about that, enough for the day. Share it out. Share this live out. Maybe we can create some traction about that topic. Share it out. I don't care. Let's share it out. Maybe somebody will see it and say, yo, he roasted him. Because that's what it was about. And if I ever had a chance to meet that guy, I would say the same thing to him. Like, what gives you the right? I can't compete with you to be a quarterback because I never played it. So I would never sit there and tell you that I'm a better quarterback than you or that your skills suck. But when I compare you to Jalen Hurts, yeah, I can say that you suck compared to Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like I said, I just wanted to get on here and just kind of air that out for a minute and because my man Jazzo, like I said, if you hear this, I saw the text, I saw it, I respond to you, but I already saw that video a little while ago, and I was just like, this dude is crazy. Like I said, at first I didn't even know who he was. I'm like, who is this? You know what I mean? Like you can hear some notable people say some stuff, and you're like, all right, well, maybe they see it differently than I do. But Chase Daniels, like, come on, man. Like, come on, man. Is that your is that what you have to do to kind of make a name for yourself in the analyst world? You got to create some controversy. It's like I listen to ESPN radio in the morning, and the guy Chris Canty, he was I think a linebacker or defensive end for the Cowboys and Giants, and he won a Super Bowl with the Giants. I know, but I can't stand the guy because he says some of the dumbest things out of his mouth. I never forget. Before last season or before the season started with basketball and NBA. Joel Embiid. They asked Joel Embiid, do he think he can be considered with some of the greats that are playing now? And his answer was no. I can't be considered up there with the greats because I'm not available in playoff time when my team needs me because of injury. Now here's the man saying it out of his mouth himself. Chris Canty goes on and says, "You can't be considered the greatest because you're not playing." Do I have a hold on? I don't know if I have it. No, I don't have it. This is what I wanted to do to him. It's like, dude, that's what he just said. Like, that what the man? Are you paying attention? You're getting paid to do this. Like, this is your job. This is what you get paid to do, and you sound stupid. Like, you think you're one upping them and trying to criticize them and make it seem like, oh yeah, I know more. You're not available. That's dude. He admitted that. He said, I'm injured. I'm not there when it's crunch time. I'm always injured. Freak injuries. I tweeted him. He ain't never tweet back. At least I don't think he did because I don't know how to. Twitter is crazy. But I tweeted it and said, yo, dude, what are you talking about? He said that. And sometimes you listen to these people and they're no different than us. I mean, yeah, they might have professional experience at playing the game, whatever the game that is that they played. But sometimes they sound so stupid. They be sounding like some of the dumbest analysts that you ever heard in your life. And it's like them hits that you suffered over the years might have, did more damage than you may know. You sound like an idiot. I remember Stephen A. roasted him about something. He said, I can't remember what he said now, but Stephen A. roasted him about something. He said, like, dude, you sound stupid. But I think sometimes people get up there in front of that mic and the camera and put on a show to create viral moments. Because it does create opportunity for you to talk about it on a larger scale. It does. Like, if you sit up there and have a stupid outtake and you get somebody to respond to it, that can take your whole career, life to a different level. Like, I mean, I'm not necessarily looking to do that. All I want is recognition for just knowing a little bit about what I talk about. Like, I would never get into debate with them about plays and play callings and what you should do in certain situations on the field or whatever. But some of the stuff that we talk about as far as, sports fans, like a lot of us men, and some of you women, but a lot of us men sit in barbershops, bars, corners, and we talk about the game because we watch it with different eyes. And a lot of times, like I said, we're not talking about the X's and O's of the game. We're talking about some of the decisions that were made during games and stuff like that. Like, you could say that's X's and O's, but I'm saying, like, we're criticizing Joel Embiid for not being available in the playoffs. But we're also bigging him up because he's one of the best big men in the league. But sometimes when you hear some of these analysts and they say some of the dumbest things that you ever heard, you be like, I know I can do better than you. I know I can be better than you. And at the end of the day, you just be like, I just need the shot. And like I said, I was live on TikTok a few minutes ago and I was talking on air. I'm never going to, me personally, I don't know if I ever can do anything foolish or say anything outlandish just to try to create a viral moment. Like, I want whatever I say and whatever I do to be truthful from the heart and really represent me and who I am and not just try to create a viral moment. Because it's not about that. Like, I mean, like, I love doing this. I love talking. I love talking sports, you know what I mean? And having a good time with it. But for me, it's not like a life or death thing that I got to say dumb things, outlandish things to be relevant. And I feel sorry for the people that do, because there's a lot of people that sit there and say the craziest things out of their mouth just to create moments to be relevant. And I get it for some people because it's obviously social media and made people millionaires off of being crazy and doing crazy things. But some of us just like me myself, I'm just a person that's just going to try to be truthful and be me while doing it. I'm not going to sit here and wear a costume of like a Chase Daniel and pour like chocolate all over my face or something like that, and just to get a bunch of people to like it. And like, no, I'd rather him hear me criticize him and talk crazy about him um, genuinely by being me. That's what I'd rather hear him do. Because for me, I think if he was to hear that and was to hear what I said, and we could talk about it, it'd be a respectful conversation because he knows like it's not. I'm dogging him for views. I'm dogging your point of view because it didn't make sense. It don't make sense. Because if your definition of an elite quarterback doesn't even mention him, or even the superstar quarterback doesn't even mention him, then your perspective might be shot. It might be shot that you know what? Because how in the world can you tell me that that man is not even a superstar quarterback or less than what? How can you say that when he's accomplished more than probably your favorite quarterback? If your favorite quarterback ain't Patrick Mahomes in this league right now, he's most likely accomplished more than them. So that's what I'm saying. Like I just don't understand the thought process. So that's why I would never sit back and say or clown him like on some trying to create a viral moment type of time because it's not about that. It's like for me, like I said, I feel like it's more effective if we have a genuine conversation about it that we both can come to some type of understanding because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like I said, I criticize Jalen Hurts. If you watch me live on Sundays, especially during the season, I've went in on him about some of the things that he said as far as his mental, like what he was thinking at those times. I blame him and Nick Sirianni for last year's collapse. I've talked about how his thought process and how he answers media questions only makes it look like he's only thinking about himself. I'm cool with saying all that stuff, but when it comes to winning and producing, it's hard for me to really say anything different about that. It's hard for me to view him like Chase Daniels views him, and that's why I would want to figure out how do you view him and why do you view him like that? Because in your career, you hadn't come close to what he's done. You hadn't come close to what he's done in his career. So how do you look at it? And that's not a shot at him. That's just really pure facts. You haven't done a fraction of what that man's done in his career. And his career is shorter than yours so far. Like he's only played for what 5 years in the league. Chase Daniels, you was a backup for like at least a good 10 years. At least a good 10 years. So I just don't get it. That's the thing. Like I've criticized Embiid. I give Maxey a little, every now and like I'm not a fanboy to where as though I'm trying to say my star player or my superstar player has no room for criticism. No, it ain't that at all. Because they do. But when you're not considering him up there with some of the best, to me, you're just being foolish. You're just being foolish. And that doesn't make no sense. And that deserves me to talk about you a little bit. Not to the point where I'm creating viral moments or anything like that, but just to mention your name and have a conversation about you. But listen, that's my time for tonight. I appreciate everybody who stopped by, dropped a like. Anybody who have followed the page, comment. Jason, my brother, appreciate you, bro. We got to get together and do a show. We'll talk, but we got to get together and do something because we got to talk about the Sixers and their upcoming plans. the Eagles and what they're still doing. Baseball is going on. We got to talk about that stuff. So we'll connect if you're still on here and talk and get some times together where we can go live together and try to do a show. But I appreciate everybody who's been in here, who's been watching me, who's been supporting me since I've been doing this. It means a lot. I know right now I have been not the most consistent on being on live, but it's been work and things like that that's been tying the time up a little bit. So that's why I try to come on and do these little shows here, just to try to keep my face out there, my name out there, and people to know that I'm still here, I'm still available, and I'm still ready to talk some sports. So if anybody's out there that that's interested in going live with me, let me know. Reach out to me. We can put something together. We can do a show together. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't even always have to be about sports. We can talk about anything, and I'm cool with it. You just let me know whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to do it. We'll put some dates and time on the board, and we'll get it together, put it out there so the people can be a part of it and have some fun. But until the next time, I want to say thank you for coming out to listen to me. It's your boy Jamar, Top Shelf Sports Talk. Peace.